My altcoin portfolio has gone down by 50% and all those altcoins are still garbage. Everyone who invested into altcoins is unhappy and there's still no alt season. However, in this video, I'm going to discuss one new altcoin that might reverse my altcoin portfolio. And I'm going to give you a complete update of the portfolio and why this one is so important to add to the portfolio. Before we continue, I would like to ask you to subscribe to this YouTube channel because that keeps us motivated to keep on building this channel towards the biggest channel, providing you with transparent trades and investing into the crypto markets. As we have been doing it, it hasn't been a great journey as of yet, but at least we keep on providing content and we are sure that it's going to be great in the upcoming period. So please subscribe and welcome to the community. Now, Ethereum has been going bananas. However, Bitcoin hasn't been going up. This month is actually a red month in the sense that we are seeing that Bitcoin has been making a new all-time high, which I've been posting on Twitter as well. And since then, we basically reversed downwards as we are down close to 10% from that high. What has happened? Well, we have been making a new all-time high. We took the liquidity. We spiked with the volume, which you can see on the bottom of the chart. And since then, the markets have been reversing as there was also some bad macroeconomic data coming out, which we discussed in the previous update. And that didn't really help for a breakout. But to be fair, at every crucial resistance, there is resistance, which it can't break through. And then it rejects to build up stamina. And that is quite normal in the sense that if the upside is not being broken through, we're going to test the downside. And then the downside is attracting so much liquidity. And then we go back up again. And that's why you can see in those examples or in those periods of sideways action of Bitcoin that it's quite often taking place to build up that stamina. And it's getting longer and longer and longer as more money is required to have another big impulse upwards. And in the example, this is from 2024, we've seen that we were stuck into a range for more than 9 months where we were taking the highs, we've constantly been taking the lows, and every time when we took the lows, it was a moment to get into the markets where it reversed back upwards. So this is quite healthy. The fact that we're going to get such a consolidation is also very healthy for the markets in general. I would assume that given that Bitcoin has seen its run and Ethereum has currently provided a big run, it's going to give us the window where the altcoins are going to yield a big return. But we need to be making sure that during that run, we're actually going to sell some positions to de-risk and to be able to buy back into the lower points. But currently, if we look at Bitcoin, we need to be looking at certain levels for buying opportunities. And that is identical with the chart that I've just shown, but the recent low that we've seen at 112k, everything beneath there should by definition become interesting from a trader's and investor's perspective, given that every time when we take the low, the markets reverse. This is also something that we should be looking at in case we get there. If Bitcoin drops beneath 107 and goes all the way towards 100k, we might be into some more problems, but at least the area between 108 to 111k is something that we should be looking at. So in that case, during those corrections, altcoins are getting hammered. If you're a very active trader, then you can make a lot of money by the volatility of those altcoins. For instance, if we look at the example, Optimism is currently not breaking through the resistance point. And that is usually not a great sign. But again, if we talk about Bitcoin building up stamina to break out of the resistance, the same can be said for Optimism, which is currently moving around for like 6 months. And if we get into a stage where it's going to test the resistance and break through the resistance, it's likely going to yield a substantially higher return as a lot of buys are going to get in, which means that if we get to the lower end of this range, that's where you want to buy the asset. And if we get another test of the range resistance, then likely this time it will break through. And that's why I'm not selling optimism at this point, at the resistance point, because if we are consolidating at this resistance for the fourth time in 6 months, and the upside is nearly 120% from here in the short term, and the downside is only 35%, it's not really profitable to make a decision to be selling that position with the risk that I lose money by not being in that entire run. So it's important to realize that we have multiple waves in the altcoin cycles. They are going to come. We have been seeing it. Optimism has been going up by 300% in the previous years and going down by 80% in the months after. We can utilize those opportunities, but at this point we need to be fully allocated, and we are fully allocated, but we can still swap around to improve the chances of becoming profitable or going back to break even. And that's why I think that one altcoin should be added into the portfolio. By definition, I think that the altcoin portfolio should be starting to get into profit in the upcoming months. Probably we're going to have a correction in September, which we need to endure. But overall, we have been making some great choices in the previous period, as we were able to sell Omni at $7.25. I wished Optimism was $7. We basically invested that into other assets which have gone up afterwards too. And ultimately, it's all about percentages. Yeah, Omni is a small position in the portfolio, but even if we are able to make a return on that, reinvest it into assets that continue to provide an additional return, it's going to increase our chances to be getting back into break even or profit land by a significant amount, which means that by doing those trades, by the info that we get, it's going to give us the opportunity to make money. And I think that as all the altcoins are still stuck in that range, we should be continuing to stay fully allocated, as the upside is significantly higher from this point than the downside. And there is not really an upside of trading the portfolio actively at this point. So that brings me to the portfolio, which is still down 50% at this point. I'm using the data in terms of prices on the moment of shooting this video. So Optimism was 71.1 cents. Tau was $350. And as you can see, the allocation in the portfolio is currently skewed towards Optimism, and all the other positions are equal. I still believe that Optimism is a very safe high beta play that's going to yield us a positive return in the upcoming period, when ETH is going to provide stabilization and the entire ecosystem will start to continue to do well. However, the position is so large compared to the rest that we can skew off a little bit there. And on top of that, we have the case of the smaller coins, which are Rocket Pool, Renzo, Aevo, and Wormhole. But especially Rocket Pool, Renzo, and Wormhole are significantly large at this point, and some are even larger than the large caps, which means we can skew off some there to utilize that money to be investing into an asset that I think is going to yield a higher return in the upcoming period. And that's why you can see the mutations that I've done on the right side, which is selling $1,500 of Optimism, selling 2K of Rocket Pool. The fact that I'm selling 2K of Rocket Pool is I think that the volatility is not as much as we should be seeing for a small cap for something like Rocket Pool. So that's why I wanted to sell off a little bit more there. And I'm selling 1K in Wormhole as it's just the biggest position. I still want to be bigly allocated towards Wormhole and Optimism, so we stay in that case. But I'm adding one altcoin, which is peaq. We haven't been allocated towards peaq at all. We haven't been allocated towards Deepin at all. One thing that I need to note is that we invested into peaq pre-TGE through our MN Capital venture capital. So we are not unbiased on that regard. It has been going up massively after the launch, and since then the price has fallen, which then gives another opportunity through a liquid trade that we can do, as we think that from here on Deepin is going to go on the growth curve, on the exponential growth curve, and therefore I think that there's a lot of upside to be made with the best project in the DePIN ecosystem, which is the one that's being built upon, which is peaq. And peaq has been getting the highest possible score on the Blockworks token transparency framework. As you can see here, the project and the team get a 10 out of 10. The token allocation gets an 18 out of 18. The market structure gets a 7 out of 7. And financial disclosure gets a 5 out of 5, which means that the project is actually really good. They have more than 70, I think it is, or at least between 50 to 70 projects being built in peaq, and they have a lot of big partners. So for instance, Airbus, Audi, Bosch are all partners of the peaq ecosystem. With MA Capital, we have been investing into multiple projects that are being built upon peaq. And I think that the entire DePIN curve is still going to come, where we just had an airdrop season, and now it's trying to figure out the next few steps. And I think it's going to get even bigger and bigger, where the API or APR is going to be massive. So if we look at the peaq price action, we need to zoom in a little bit, because it went down from 74 cents to 6 cents. It's currently at an all-time low, and an all-time low is a great opportunity. So that's why we allocate it here. And that brings me to the new portfolio balance, which is 9.5K into Optimism, which is, as you can see, 4.5K, which we bought at 5.9 cents of peaq, then 5K in Rocket Pool and 6K in Wormhole. And there is the mutation step, where you can see that we sold 1.5K Optimism at 71 cents, which decreased the position by 2,000 assets. We sold off $2,000 in Rocket Pool at $7.24, which decreased it by 276. We also sold the Wormhole position, which decreased it by nearly 13,000 assets. And then we have the position in peaq, which we bought at nearly 6 cents. So it's around 75,000 peaq tokens that are now in our portfolio. So I think that right now we are into a case that we are a little bit more broadened into our portfolio. We are not entirely allocated into only ETH. We are also starting to get allocated into a new vertical, which is DePIN. And I think that the ones that we have been selling is going to ultimately result into a higher return by investing into peaq. So this is now the new portfolio balance. We're still down 50%, but I think that in Q3 and Q4, we're going to get into profits. This is not just another crypto event. This is where we improve your game. On September the 18th, I'm partnering up with OKX to host an exclusive crypto trading masterclass in Amsterdam. Whether you are a beginner, whether you are an experienced trader, this is where you will learn everything to improve your own game. This is what you're going to get. You're going to get a 1-hour masterclass by me with my trading strategy and my experience in the markets. We're going to do a Q&A where you can ask all the questions that you have to improve your game. And we're doing an OKX live demo of all the advanced tools that the platform can give to you as a trader. And of course, you're going to network with like-minded people, and we're going to provide food and drinks to make it a great evening. Only 120 spots. It's completely free. It's one night of exclusive content and information that you need to use. Make sure to sign up today to OKX and be part of this exclusive event. The altcoin portfolio is still significantly underwater, and that is unfortunately. However, you need to realize that investing into altcoins is very tricky. And yes, I've made that decision because I believe that we're going to get into the final easy cycle when it comes to altcoins, the final big run. It's not easy. And a lot of people will be making wrong decisions in the coming periods, assuming that the cycle is going to be over. I think it's going to be longer. I'm not here to lose money. I'm here to build up my portfolio. I'm here to provide transparency by trading those altcoins. We're going to change the course over the year, which means that we're going to be trading it more actively. We're going to try to utilize it more once it's bigger with staking. We're going to try to utilize it more by investing into other markets or by shorting the markets. So it's going to be fun. And at this point, we are actively trading it by investing into a new altcoin. If you think we should be adding another altcoin, make sure to let us know in the comments beneath. And also make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel. I'll see you again on a new update on Thursday. Ciao.